there comes a moment when rest no longer restores you. You sleep, pause, slow down, yet the tiredness remains. This kind of fatigue doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from repeating something that no longer reflects who you are. You keep moving through life, fulfilling roles and expectations, but inside, something feels disconnected, as if you're present in form but absent in truth. Nothing dramatic caused this feeling. There was no collapse, no clear ending, no visible failure. On the outside, everything still works, but internally it feels like you're acting a part that once made sense and now feels foreign. Your words sound familiar, yet empty. Your actions continue, yet without resonance. This confusion is subtle, but deeply unsettling. This stage appears when inner change has already happened, but external life hasn't adjusted yet. You've moved internally, but your surroundings still relate to who you were. So you continue living from memory instead of alignment, repeating patterns that once fit naturally, but now require effort and emotional energy to maintain. You may notice it in brief pauses, moments when you respond automatically, then feel a quiet resistance inside. A thought appears, this doesn't feel like me anymore. That pause matters. It's not doubt, it's awareness, interrupting habit. And awareness always arrives gently before it becomes unavoidable. Most people stay in outdated versions of themselves because familiarity feels safer than truth. Others recognize you there, expect you there, and leaving that version feels like risking misunderstanding or disappointment. So you stay not because it's right, but because it's known. Living an old identity doesn't always hurt immediately. Often, it dulls you slowly, like wearing clothes that still look fine, but restrict your breathing. You can function, but not expand. Over time, this restriction turns into quiet exhaustion, even when nothing appears wrong on the surface. There is pressure to remain consistent, to be predictable, to not confuse people with change. But consistency without honesty erodes energy. It asks you to protect an image instead of honoring an inner truth that is already asking for space. This isn't about rejecting your past self. That version of you was real, necessary, and protective at the time. Growth doesn't erase what came before, it completes it. And completion often feels uncomfortable because it requires release, not repetition. When your inner values shift, your external roles begin to feel misaligned. Conversations feel shallow, expectations feel heavy. You're present, but not engaged. Pretending becomes tiring, not because you're dishonest, but because your inner world no longer matches the script. You may withdraw slightly, speak less, explain less. This isn't indifference. It's fatigue from translating yourself into a version that no longer feels accurate. Silence becomes easier than performance. Guilt often appears here. Guilt for changing, for not fitting where you once belonged, for disappointing expectations you never consciously chose. But growth is not betrayal, it's evolution. And evolution always disrupts comfort before it restores alignment. This phase doesn't demand dramatic action. No announcements, no sudden decisions. Awareness comes first, action comes later. Most inner transitions need silence to mature before they reshape the external world. Notice what feels forced now, where you shrink your honesty, where you perform instead of express. These are signals, not warnings, information. They show you where an identity has expired, even if the environment still supports it. Living a version of yourself that no longer fits creates inner tension. Over time, that tension turns into fatigue, irritability, or not because you're weak, but because misalignment quietly drains energy. Feeling lost doesn't mean you lack direction. It means old reference points no longer guide you. You are between identities, between what worked and what hasn't fully formed yet. This space feels unstable, but it's deeply meaningful. Growth rarely reveals the destination before releasing the old map. Wanting certainty too early only creates pressure. This stage asks for patience, not answers. The urge to return to old behaviors often appears here. Familiar roles promise relief, but going back doesn't restore energy. It only postpones alignment. What no longer fits cannot sustain you, no matter how comfortable it once felt. You are allowed to outgrow environments, expectations, and versions of yourself that once felt safe. Safety without truth eventually becomes confinement. This phase isn't about becoming someone new overnight. It's about stopping the quiet self-betrayal of pretending to be who you are no longer. You don't owe the world a consistent personality. You owe yourself an honest one. When you stop forcing an outdated version of yourself, something softens internally. Breath returns. Resistance lessens. Energy stabilizes. Slowly, naturally. Alignment doesn't arrive as excitement. It arrives as relief, as less inner friction, as a quiet sense of rightness that doesn't need explanation. For now, simply notice where habit replaces truth. Awareness alone begins the shift without pressure or urgency. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to stop performing who you no longer are. This version doesn't fit anymore. That isn't failure. It's a signal.com, honest and precise, that something more aligned is already forming inside you.